One of the things that we're doing in our Bahama Preparations is we're adding a sunshade to our Dodger, and we're also going to add a hole in the middle of it so that we can make it for water catching as well. The last few storms we've caught a good 30 to 50 gallons in the dinghy. It would be nice to be able to catch, 30 gallons from the sunshade pit as well. We're having a friend of ours do a little sewing for us. We're letting her have the business, and that should be done in the next few days. We have the Dodger off right now. We're going to put another zipper on it so that we can attach our sunshade to it, and we'll see how the new ideas work. So we have a new canvas edition. It's nothing fancy. It's made of a spare piece of leftover junk that was part of an old bimini that we took off. But you can see it here. We're covering up the isinglass, keeps the sun out, and it also allows us to catch a little bit of water. Also gives us a little bit of shade from the rain, so we can keep the hatch open during the rain. Also, one of the things that we decided we can do is we can lower it like this. There. So now it prevents the rain from getting in, and it allows us to catch water off the end in buckets. But it's really just a temporary until we can build something better.
It also gives us a form for what we want to make later.
Yep. By the way, a shout out to Glory. They helped us sew this together. Glory actually does a lot of cloth repairs and sailors repairs here in Boutique. She does a wonderful job. This wasn't really a good example of her work, because I told her to just like tack together some lost pieces that we had from other stuff. So, but she does really excellent work, and she's really wonderful to deal with. So if you're down here in Boot Key and you need some canvas work done, look up Glory. They'll help you out.
Good morning. It is January 1st, 2024, and I am doing a project that I never thought about doing on my boat. Clothespins. I have about 2/3 of the clothespins that I need, so I've been trying to find more clothespins, but these are some of the newer ones, which are several years old at this point, and they're just not as well made as these clothespins right here, which are the old-fashioned ones, and just looking at them you're not going to be able to tell the quality quite as much, but trust me, you can feel the difference in them. So I was trying to figure out what I have, because I've just been collecting them for a long time, thinking I would use them at my house to hang clothes, and I never did, even though my wonderful husband made me a clothesline. So here I am sorting them into piles so we know how many we have of each. One of the things and also another clothespin point, I always save my extra pieces. So if I break one somehow, and pieces will get lost in that process, I save the extra pieces. Not only could it be used on some other project, because Steve has so many weird pieces of wood and plastic and I don't know what lying around in case he needs it for projects, but also if another one breaks and I have maybe the spring for it, I can use that to make another clothespin, and it doesn't take that much space. So it just lives in the bag of clothespins that I have. Now, what I'm going to be doing here shortly, this is a brand new clothespin I just bought from Classic American Clothespins by Herrick Kimball. He made these. I don't know how many he's making right now, not a whole lot I think, but I'm gonna order some of these. I'm gonna just show you the comparison. That's the old one, and then this is the brand new one. It's made with ash and stainless steel springs, so it would be very useful to have, because you can almost never have too many clothespins on a boat, and it definitely takes more clips than you're used to in a house, because if something falls, it falls into the water, not just on the ground and you have to rewash it. So this is one project that I didn't think of that I would be doing on my boat.
Okay, I have some examples of clothespins so we can see the difference. These are modern dollar store clothespins. They're made of a very, very soft wood. They tend to crack right here. Sometimes they split back here. They're very lightweight. They don't hold the line very well. So when you're talking about holding clothes on in the wind, especially on a boat, these don't work very well. This is an older one. It's made of oak, and a lot of the older ones are made from various hardwoods. This one, if you notice the difference between these two, this one's got little grips so that your fingers don't slip off. These, your fingers slip. The springs in these cases are galvanized, so there's a zinc coating on them. We do have a few that are starting to rust from the salt air, but we like the antique ones. We found some from our own stash, from relatives. There's also things that we've gotten online, ordering old ones on eBay. And this is the new ones that we've just found. They're made of ash. They're really, really sturdy. They don't seem like they're too strong of a spring, but it is definitely stronger than these. The spring is roughly the same strength as the other old ones. These are our new ones that we're gonna order, and we should be getting a bunch of them in. And I think we're just gonna keep these little ones as spares for other items, but we're gonna make sure that we have hardwood ones.
Here is my new laundry toy. Makes the laundry dry a lot faster. Still working on trying to catch the water. Not as easy as it would seem.
Done about a quarter of the detail work already. So we can do a proper coat. And on this board specifically, there's a whole lot of yellowed section of poly. And some areas are just going to quickly scratch up like this. Most of this is good. But what we got to do is light areas like right here are going to have to be addressed. This is something we tried to address before, but it didn't end up working for us. The rest of the deck is done, but we've got the bright work to get done. If anybody remembers what happened with this and what it looked like, but this is looking 1,000 times better after a few coats of poly and a bunch of sanding. The whole area looks better, honestly. We've been testing how to deal with our deck for a while, and this was a 6 to 9 month test. But as you can see, what we did on the bright work didn't work. What specifically we did is we put varnish on top of the poly after maybe kind of thinning the poly a little bit. We were trying our best to get rid of things like this. That's exactly what we don't want on here.
Just a quick note about brushes and polyurethane. Polyurethane dries in the air. If you fill a cup full of water and you put your polyurethane filled brush under the water, it won't harden. And then when you come back with your mineral spirits, you can clean the brush off. You don't want to leave it that way for long, but if you don't want it to dry out and you're out of mineral spirits, put it in water. Of course, you can't poly with it once it's been in water, right? Because the poly won't stick with the water. But it does prevent your brush from getting hardened.
It buys you some time.
It buys you some time to buy some new mineral spirits, which is what we did.
Okay.
And the brush is still soft, so I didn't ruin my brush. Polyurethane is very sensitive to air, so it dries very, very rapidly. And so if you get polyurethane down in the edge seal here, you need to clean it out because the can will never seal right again. You can see a bung here that we replaced. There's another one down here right there. You know,
Yeah?
I'm not saying that we don't want things to look nice, because we do. So please don't take what I'm saying in the wrong light. We do want things to look nice, but biggest goal of all of this, preservation of wood. So sometimes we aren't sanding it all the way down, and we're not getting it all one consistent color. And the reason is we don't want to take off any more wood. This wood is 50 years old, and we're interested in preserving it for as long as possible. So that means I'm not sanding it all down until I get a nice consistent color. I know that there's a specific tool for this, but I have found that this little screwdriver works absolutely best for cleaning off the old caulk and getting in a little bit of fresh wood. This is a continual process. We actually do this probably, I don't know, maybe once a week we find one other little piece that needs to be done. And you can't let them sit, because if you let them sit, even for a little while, the water gets under the deck. And then it goes all kinds of places. You never know where it's going to go once it gets under the deck.
And once water starts getting under the deck, it can start wearing out the epoxy layer underneath all this.
Yep, and one of the things I've noticed is that teak, when it's wet, is very soft. Here's what happens, and here's what you look for. You find a wet spot, right? And it's just a little bit wet, damp. And then when you pull the caulk up, you notice it comes up really easy, and it's really wet in here. And then you got to let all that dry out. And this is wet just from dumping water on the deck while we were wet sanding the poly that we were working on. When it's wet like this, you really don't want to scrape it too much, because tons and tons of wood comes out. So you got to be careful with it, and you got to let it dry, and it's got to be really dry. But there's these little tiny pieces of rubber.
It'll stop the rubber from sealing if you aren't careful.
Yeah, and you got to get all of them. So you just patiently work at getting all the old rubber off, and then you give it a wipe with acetone, like on a Q-tip, and that cleans it out, the final cleaning. And then you put the caulk in. And once you put this on, you let it dry. It dries in a few hours, and then you scrape it off with a razor, and it cuts off just perfectly well.
This stuff's also the most noxious black ooze when you touch it. When
it gets
when it's wet.
everywhere. I'm telling you, the tiniest little tiny piece of it will just go everywhere.
So it's one of the other reasons we have it taped so carefully, even afterwards, is because we need to see where it is.
And little tiny areas, by the way, water can get in the smallest hole. So even these little tiny pieces like here and here, you got to get them too.
One of the reasons that we're using fresh water instead of salt water to rinse off, clean off, etc., is that salt water tends to stay wet for a lot longer. It'll take all day for us to be able to re-poly it, and we're still probably going to have to rinse it off with fresh water. If you like the video you've just seen and you would like to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.